I heard that. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. We're just getting the microphone set up here. Thank you. All right, excellent. Thank you. So on behalf of the Newbury Historical Society, thank you everyone for joining us today for this Veterans Day program. After the program, feel free to look at the display we have over here to my right, and stick around after the presentation for a drawing. You've got those tickets as you walk in the door, and some more information. So a few quick housekeeping notes first. Thank you to the Charlotte Mini Post for hosting us again this year. This is awesome, and we love being here, so thank you very much. Thank you to Kevin Chryssopoulos, our sound and technology guy, who has rescued us about 10 times today so far. So that's worked out really great. And he couldn't be here today, but thank you to Doug Bowker. He is the son of Gordon Bowker, who spearheaded the fundraising effort back in the 1940s for the LCI ship that we are talking about today. So with that in mind, today we're going to be talking about the LCI 713. During World War II, citizens of the town of Newbury organized a war bond effort to fund the construction of an LCI ship. The ships cost approximately $700,000 to build, and Newbury heard the call and then some. The town raised over $1 million from 7,000 residents, the equivalent of over $15 million today. That ship, the LCI 713, was erected in Neponset and served in the Pacific Theater. Today, the LCI 713 serves as a museum, and we have members of the Amphibious Forces War Museum joining us from Portland, Oregon over Zoom today to discuss amphibious warfare, the LCIs, and show us a bit of the inside of Newbury's ship. On the line today, we have Jerry Gilmartin, a member of the museum, the AFMM president, Rick Holmes, and our featured speaker today, chief historian of the Amphibious Forces Memorial Museum, Dave McKay. So I'm going to hand it off to you now, Dave.
You're ready to go, right?
You're good.
All right. Well, it's morning here, but I understand it's afternoon there, so good afternoon. I am speaking from the LCI 713, the sole remaining LCI afloat out of 900 plus that were built. So we'll go ahead and give you a little story about what an LCI is, because I'm sure that, like most naval officers in World War II, you had the same questions. Now, why isn't that working? There we go. So to understand a little bit about amphibious warfare, prior to World War II, Marines and Army troops just landed from ships' boats. And so there really wasn't very much difference between the first amphibious assault in 1776 and what they were doing in the 1920s, which was landing from ships' boats. Mainly because it was just a lot easier to do one of these. You just went ashore, got everything, and then marched to find the enemy. However, World War II changed all that. You had air power. You had the machine gun. Rather than having 500 soldiers shooting rifles at you when you came ashore, 2 machine guns could do the same thing. And then you had motorized transport and railways, which allowed the enemy to quickly arrive at the beach if necessary or to reinforce it. So a landing force of the future after World War I needed to be fast, have all the necessary equipment, and be prepared to battle the moment they hit the beach. So in the 1930s, in light of a lot of this new reality, people started to think about how to be able to do that. And in the United States, they developed the Higgins boat, which is, if you've seen the movie Private Ryan, that's what they were coming ashore on. Lightweight, carried on larger transports. In addition, they had and developed what they call the landing vehicle track, the amphibious tractor, which allowed troops to go ashore and basically fight from an armored vehicle, and then dismount. England was doing the same thing. They were thinking of ways to get their troops and their equipment onto the beach faster. And they developed the landing craft tank, which is the smaller vessel to the left, and the LST. And does anybody know there what LST stands for?
We're hearing troops a lot.
Well, technically it stands for landing ship tank, but if you were a sailor on board, it was designated as large, slow target. The British also saw a need for a medium-sized landing troop ship. And this is where the LCI comes in. It was the British idea. They wanted a ship about this size, put a company of commandos on, and go over to France, kill some Germans, and then come back. But they were not capable of really producing any of these in their own shipyards. They had higher priorities. When America enters the war, this idea was brought forward, and the US said, yeah, we can build those. We have the shipyard capacity. And to show you that the United States government can operate quickly when it wants to, the time difference between, let's say, the sketch on a napkin till preliminary acceptance of the blueprints for construction was a little over 40 days. So they can move fast. They just choose not to most of the time. Now there's some, if you're in the Navy, there is a difference between the word craft and the word ship. This is a ship, even though it's called a craft. And the reason is because the British already had landing ship infantry vessels, and it would have got very confusing. So they just called it a craft, but this is a commissioned ship. Now I'm going to show you a little bit about what an LCI is and did. So we'll just show you a little bit of a film.
Among the many types of amphibious craft that this war has brought forth, one of the most successfully employed has been the LCI-L, Landing Craft Infantry Large. Battles are won by men. It's the LCI's job to get the men there. From the Mediterranean to the South Pacific to the English Channel, fighting men have poured down their ramps by the thousands. And in the landings to come, there'll be even more of them, as many more as we can build. So let's take a look at them and see what they're like. Statistically, they are ocean-going landing craft, 158 feet long, with a 23-foot beam and displacing approximately 380 tons at maximum full load in ocean-going condition. She is the speediest of all landing craft, being powered by 2 quads of General Motors 671 units, which develop a total of 1,800 horsepower. Her separate propeller shafts revolve in opposite directions, and the variable pitch propellers give her a speed in excess of 15 knots, with a cruising speed of 13 knots. She is not only fast, but highly maneuverable, as you can see by this tight turn. Her flat-bottom construction gives her a very shallow draft. At beaching condition, she draws only 5 feet 2 inches aft and 2 feet 10 inches forward. This is the main deck, looking aft from the forecastle. Above her main deck, there's a gun deck. On that, the pilot house, and over that, the conning station. For loading and unloading, this type of LCI carries 2 ramps outboard of the hull at the bow. These are designed primarily for personnel and small package cargo capable of being manhandled. The ramps are controlled by cables leading to a winch in the forecastle, which is operated by the winchman. Outside, there is a clutch man for each ramp. As soon as the ship beaches, the ramps are led out and dropped, either together or singly, as they work independent of each other. The other basic type LCI is identical in construction, except that it has a single ramp carried inboard, allowing more deck space forward of the conning station. This type has bow doors, and inside them a watertight door, both of which are operated by hand block and tackle. The bow doors are opened when approaching the beach, and a watertight door either on the approach or after the ship is beached, depending upon surf or combat conditions. Then the single ramp, which is operated by a winch on the main deck, is run out for the landing. The ship's personnel consists of 25 men and 3 officers, but a 4th officer is sometimes added. The commanding officer is usually a Lieutenant J.G., and in addition to being responsible for the running of the ship, he has as additional duties navigation, training, and morale. If there's no 4th officer aboard, he also handles the ship's communications. The executive officer, usually an ensign, is in charge of the deck division, supply, gunnery, welfare, maintenance, upkeep, and personnel. The engineering officer, also usually an ensign, has charge of the engineering division, repairs, damage control, and commissary. This is the interior of one of the troop compartments. In addition to the ship's personnel, the LCI can sleep and feed approximately 206 troop officers and men in 4 troop compartments and 1 officer's compartment. When loaded with its full complement of troops, 5 tons of cargo can also be carried. But when empty of troops and with the bunks secured, she can carry 75 tons of package cargo in the troop compartments below the main deck. Here we see food and ammunition being brought aboard. No cargo may be stored on deck except in case of extreme emergency, as it puts the weight too high in the ship. To maintain adequate stability, the cargo should be stowed as low as possible in the troop holds and lashed down securely before the ship puts to sea. However, the primary purpose of the LCI, the one she was designed for, is to carry combat troops to an enemy beach. When they are transported directly from the forward area to the area to be attacked, they can be loaded directly from the dock or from the beach, whichever is the most convenient. Troops may also be transferred from a transport somewhere near the area to be attacked for the run into the beach. LCIs are often called on to do this after they have discharged their original load of troops. Upon boarding ship, the troops should be directed to their quarters below immediately to keep the decks clear. There's a rifle rack over each bunk, which you will notice the man on the right using.
Here we go again.
Click on the other arrow, Dave.
Okay.
Yep, that one right there. There you go.
Ah, there you go. Okay, so hopefully that'll give you a little bit of an idea as to what an LCI is. The construction was done initially of LCIs was initially by 7 shipyards, of which Lawley was one of them. And the first LCI that was launched was Lawley's LCI 212. And what they did is that they assigned groups of numbers. So even though LCI 1 was built by New York Shipbuilding, LCI 212 was the first one from Lawley Shipbuilding. And they made a total of 160 LCIs during World War II.
Tell them where Lawley is.
So by December of 1942, the first LCIs had been built and were left the U.S. and went overseas. And by June of 1943, they were everywhere. And so the photograph on the left, if in about the center, you can see an LCI coming into the beach to unload. The large mushroom cloud behind it is what happens when a German bomb hits an American ammunition ship. The center photograph shows troops going off at Rendova, which is in the Solomon Islands in the South Pacific. And the photograph on the right is an LCI and an LST going in on a landing off of New Guinea. So they were literally everywhere. In fact, they are so common that the next time, if you know what the silhouette is, look at the next time there's some documentary about World War II and invasions, and you'll see them. They're all over the place. They're so common, they're invisible. We can talk a little bit about Normandy, because everybody likes Normandy. Operation Neptune, that was the naval side of the invasion. And as it says here, it was really the most complex invasion, I think, that has ever been attempted. It required 150,000 men to be landed in the initial days. They had to establish logistical points because they were landing on a beach. It's not a harbor. And that's very difficult. And so they developed unique things. And if you ever wanted to get into learning about that, then we can talk about corn cobs and mulberries and gooseberries and phoenix and bombardarns and all the other little devices that they set up to try to support the troops on the beach. So this is a training film, and it's about 5 minutes long or thereabouts, of them practicing and preparing for the invasion. And don't be surprised about things that you see. You might wonder how we ever were successful, but training is necessary for the complex nature of this attack. Now this is silent, so I can give you, can you hear me as we're giving this?
Yes, you're coming through.
Okay. This was probably taken in early April of 1944 at Slapton Sands. And you can see here that LCIs are practicing going into the beach. These are landing craft tanks coming in. Now what they're doing is they're laying down matting, because this is not the kind of beach you would want to launch an attack against. It's shingle and it's too soft. But this was the closest they could find in England to do practice. It kind of looked like what they were going to face in Normandy. And in Normandy, they knew exactly the kind of beach they were dealing with, because British commandos had gone ashore at night and had taken sand samples, and they had done scientific analysis and knew that for the most part, tanks and vehicles could operate on the beach. Here is LST 325. If you want to see that particular vessel, it's still afloat, and the Ohio River is a museum ship. It survived, and it's the only, to my knowledge, the only American naval vessel that was at Normandy that's still around. Ah. Okay, we'll show you another bit of film for combat. Now, this is not combat in the sense of it, seeing a lot of actual action. The amount of combat footage for Normandy in film is actually really small, and you've probably already seen any of the stuff that's actually good. However, these pictures, film was shot either en route to Normandy or while you were there. That particular item is called a Rhino ferry, which is another kind of a unique thing from World War II. This particular film was shot during the morning and afternoon of D-Day. That is a Coast Guard rescue and control craft. Hope you don't get seasick. Okay, so for Normandy, again, LCIs were a reinforcing ship. They aren't designed for first wave attacks. But 4 or 5 of these LCIs could put a battalion of infantry on the beach in under 10 minutes, and that was their specialty. When you go to the Pacific, LCIs were operated slightly differently. One of the things that they found very early on was that in the Central Pacific, most of the islands they were going to attack tended to be atolls with coral reefs, which made this very difficult to operate. And so they weren't as used as often in the Central Pacific. What they did need in the Central Pacific, however, was a lot of firepower. And they determined the versatility of this ship was such that they could change the armament, put bigger guns on it, put rockets on it, and use it as a gunfire support vessel. And so down below here are 3 photographs showing LCIs slightly different armament that were used essentially to suppress Japanese gunfire as the soldiers were coming in initially on the first waves. They would be right behind them firing over them. And so the one on the photograph on the right is actually a mortar boat that carried 4.2-inch mortars. The Marines at Iwo Jima loved these because they would hover all night on the first few days of the invasion, just off the beach, firing mortars at the Japanese to the point where the Japanese really couldn't form up any attacks to attack them at night. And so they just really loved those. But this is a case of the LCI operating in a different way from what it was originally designed. Here's another film showing it in the Philippines, and it's about 5 minutes. You're going to be on LCS-28, which is a landing craft support. It's essentially an LCI. When they took the last 120 LCIs and said, we're not going to build them, we're going to build an LCS instead. They use the same hull and the same equipment, just different upper works. And these are purpose-built gunboats. The ship that just fired a broadside is the cruiser Montpelier. This LCI gunboat will be firing rockets very shortly. Each one of those rockets was essentially a 4.5-inch shell. And an LCI of this configuration could fire as many as 300 rockets in about 90 seconds. Not horribly accurate, but they would just smother a football field. Now, in this particular scene, you're seeing LCIs. They're in front of the tracked vehicles. So they're getting ready to make a landing. Now the LCIs have stopped, maybe about 1,000 yards offshore, allowing the tracked vehicles to go in front and continue to the beach. The LCIs will continue firing rockets and 40mm cannon until they get almost to the beach, and then they'll go to the sides of the beach and continue firing inward until they're ordered to stop. Now that the tracked vehicles have gone ashore, the second wave is coming in on Higgins boats. And if you saw a lot of ships out there, trust me, this was a small assault. So LCI 713 was laid down on the 27th of July, 1944. It was launched on August 5th and commissioned into the United States Navy on September the 18th. As Jeff already mentioned, this particular ship was purchased, or it was designated as the ship that was for Millbury, Massachusetts. And the center photograph shows them giving a small plaque to the ship's captain. And a better picture of the captain is the one on the right, Lieutenant Walter Paris. He was the captain of this particular ship throughout World War II. There's just some pictures that we have acquired over time about from the LCI. So these are on the top left are the 4 officers: the captain, the executive officer, the engineering officer, and the communications officer. There are a couple of pictures of the crew. Down below, you've got another picture of the crew. Probably the ship's cook making ice cream, because everybody likes ice cream. And if you're wondering what the woman is there, that is Candy Jones, who I think held the record for the most front covers of Yank magazine during World War II. In combat, the LCI 713 made 2 landings. The first was Operation Victor 4, the amphibious assault on Mindanao and Zamboanga. 713's claim into Oregon is that it landed troops attached to the 41st Infantry Division, which was the Oregon National Guard. The printing on the left is probably the finest after-action cover report page that has ever been made. Whoever did this one obviously came from New York Advertising. And if you're wondering what it means, it's because there was a Navy song that was created right after 1900 when we first went into the Philippines, called "The Monkeys Have No Tails in Zamboanga," mainly because they were bitten off by whales. And so there's a picture of the monkey and there's a picture of the whale at Zamboanga. What most people don't know is that the song actually refers to the local inhabitants, so it's not really a nice song, but it's famous in the Navy. Center picture shows 4 LCIs, of which one of these could be 713. We don't know, can't tell. But we do know that they are center ramp LCIs. You can see the bow doors opened up. And they're getting ready to land their troops at Zamboanga. And then the one on the right, we got from the son of a photographer who's actually in the center of the picture. And the 713 is the one to the left. It made it its second combat landing at Brunei in northern Borneo as part of Operation Oboe 6, where it landed troops of the Australian 9th Division. And the troops that you see in the water are troops that left this particular ship, and the photographs was taken from the conning station by the engineering officer. Final film we'll show you is a little bit of not of Brunei Bay, but of one taken about a month earlier at a place called Tarakan. And what you'll want to see is the amount of firepower that was dropped on that beach to show you how powerful the United States Navy had come since December 7th, 1941.
Beginning of the end of Jap possession of the rich Dutch East Indies started April 30th with the Allied invasion of Tarakan off Borneo's northeast coast. P-38s dropped and bombed the area before demolition crews went in to destroy beach obstacles and mines. Australian and American warships had been shelling Tarakan for 3 days, and the 13th Air Force had neutralized all Jap airfields in the area. Gunboats bombarded the town of Lingas, gateway to Tarakan's airfield, where the main landing was to be made. Mitchells laid smoke screens to shield the demolition men and stropped on the same low-level runs. Protected by the smokescreen, the demo crews moved in. Opposition was slight mortar fire, which was quickly silenced. By evening, the stage was set for D-Day. The next day, March 1st, 13th Air Force Liberators bombed Tarakan's beaches and the town itself as the first waves of Australians moved in. 100-pound demos and frags burst along the shore, in personnel areas, and on oil tanks. As the 24s pounded the island, the greatly augmented D-Day fleet moved in close. Operations proceeded on schedule as Allied troops quickly consolidated their beachhead, and by May 2nd had captured Tarakan's airfield 2 miles inland. Inevitable capture of Borneo, main source of Japan's oil supply, is another step in the elimination of her stolen empire.
So those were the only 2 combat landings that LCI 713 made. Had the war continued, then they would have been involved in the invasion of Japan. However, it returns from the war and is decommissioned in October 46, declared surplus and transferred to the Maritime Commission, where it was sold in February 1948 for initially use as a towing tug, but the guy never did it mainly because it was operating in the Columbia River system, which has, and in the Columbia Gorge, we have high winds. And the high winds and the high sides of an LCI don't work well together. And so it was basically, he just had it for a while, and then eventually the company went out of business and the ship was abandoned, and that should have been the end of it, but it survived. And the top left photo shows what we started with. And the top right photo shows what we did it part way. And the bottom photo is where we are at and where it is now. We try to use blueprints and photographs to be as historically accurate as we can, because a number of the items were gone by the time that we acquired it. So it's a hard hunt to find things, but things like the correct stove and plateware. And here's one showing that we're working on a 20 millimeter machine gun. These are some of the pictures today. And so we have, I'm afraid the little plaque here is actually a reproduction. The original one, we don't know what happened to it. May have been taken by the captain as a souvenir.
We do have one of them here, so perhaps we stole it.
Maybe. Top left is the captain's stateroom. And top right is the messing area where the crew would have ate their meals, played cards, read books, and that. Bottom left is the radio room. The radios actually do work. We need to get a second set because one set worked on 120 volt and the other set worked on 12 volt. And then on the lower right, that's the officers' messing area, wardroom. You can see it's good to be the king, because when you're an officer, you get nice mess plates and dishes, and if you're a member of the crew, you got a metal plate. And the important thing to remember about LCIs, or virtually everybody in the amphibious forces during World War II, is that the vast majority of them were naval reservists. And so they were essentially draftees, shopkeepers and kids and, just everybody. There were very few regular Navy people that were on an LCI. If you were a regular Navy and on an LCI, you must be here for punishment. This is not their assignment. Very few people had sea experience, so everything was on-the-job training. You learned as you went. The difference between an enlisted man and an officer primarily was that if you were an officer, if you had a college degree, they'd make you one. You didn't, they had pretty much the same amount of sea experience. Couple of quick tours in Long Island Sound, and here's your boat, go to Europe. And that could be any college degree. The museum president that we have, his father-in-law was a captain of an LCI, and his degree was in agriculture. He was a rancher in New Mexico. But the Navy apparently figured, hey, herding cattle, herding people, same thing. Here's your commission, and off to the Pacific he went. Wait a minute, I'm on the wrong button. So did you, so can you help? We always say this to anybody that we give talks to, either financially, eyes and ears, research, or socially. So if you think restoring a car is expensive, try an airplane. And if you think an airplane's expensive, try a ship. Basically, while much of the ship above the water line's in good shape and restored, below the water line's in desperate need of repair. Now, I saw a number of 380,000 on the advertisement. I know you spend more, but using the term or using number 380,000 back in World War II, today it'd take $1 million now to deal with the hull. And that means replacing a lot of plate and some beaming. So basically, if Millbury would do it again, it only costs him the equivalent of $60,000. Cheap at any price. There are other ways that you can help, but never hurts to ask. We're also looking for certain items to complete the restoration. And for example, a signal light gun. Below it's a Berger fair lead, which deals with the stern anchor. The center is a torpedo binnacle that would be up on the conning station, and the circular can is actually a water fountain, which would have been air pressured, and there would have been one in each of the troop compartments for the troops to use. So we're always looking for anything that we can have to restore the ship to what it would be like in 1944. I'm also interested in looking for information. Now, George Lawley of Neponset, Massachusetts, their shipyard had an in-house newspaper. And I'm desperately looking because we have exactly one example. And these things would have had a lot of information about them building LCIs, and it looks like obviously they followed up on some LCIs of what they did and reported back to their employees. So we're looking for it. They're somewhere around, I'm sure, in some small society or a museum or a library somewhere, probably long forgotten, but they're probably still around. And that's the same thing goes with the Bethlehem shipyard at Hingham, Massachusetts. I'm sure they also had an in-house newspaper, and they also built LCIs. And then we're also looking for things like post-war histories of the supervisor of shipbuilding, which covered both Lawley and Hingham from their offices in Quincy. And then socially, you can support us by just getting on and tagging us for Facebook or Instagram, or checking our website and getting the up-to-date information and participating if you wish. Now, did you want to see, do we have time to do a quick look for 5 minutes?
We would love to see the ship. That would be awesome.
All right. Let me get Jerry then. Jerry, you're on.
Dave, you'll have to unshare your screen just so we can put Dave up, so we can put Jerry up.
All right, so how do we do that here?
And we'll do some questions afterwards. So just you should have stop share on the top.
Stop share. Yeah, there you go.
Now Dave can, now everybody can see you, Dave, on the big wall. So.
Uh-oh.
This is live, yes.
Let's
Jerry,
wait for Jerry.
Yep.
So afterwards, if there's anybody that has any questions, we'll be willing to answer them. And if I don't really know the answer, I'll give you a lie so good you can't figure it out anyway. Here, I'll step away for a minute.
There we go. All right.
All right, can you hear me, Jeff?
Yes, there you are. You're good.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jerry Gilmartin, and I've sort of been involved with Millbury a lot over the last several years. Doug Balker originally got me involved with him when he sent us all the stuff. And I see Doug has built that really good model of the LCI 713 behind you guys on the table. So I'm sitting in the LCI 713's cruise mess right now. And what I was going to do is just walk outside and just show you a quick tour of the ship from the going up the bow ramp. So I'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn this around. Does that work now? You can see where I'm looking. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. So going outdoors, it's kind of a gray day, you can see. But I'm walking on the well deck, and I'm going to go down to the bow ramp. Everyone see this? This is the extendable bow ramp right here. This is called the ramp room. That's the stairway down to Troop 1. That's the vertical ladder down to the bosun locker where we keep the lines and chains.
Jerry, we lost
And
video.
I'm
Hold on.
walking down the ramp now. This is what the troops would have done onto the beach. The ramp would have gone out farther. We have a barge that we're tied up to. So coming down here.
Jerry, hold on 1 second. We lost video.
So just so you can see, this is, sorry about whipping around so fast. So this is the LCI 713, how it looks. You can see the flag up on the bow. That's the Navy Jack. And then also those signal flags flying from the main mast. It says LCI and then 713 are the actual signal flags up there. Because you guys see those signal flags?
Jerry, we can't
Way up
see
there?
anything right now. Your
Okay.
video
So now we're
died.
just gonna walk right up to the ship. You can see a little bit down the side here. We have a temporary boarding ladder. We're gonna walk up the ramp. They originally didn't have a handrail here on the ramp, but we had to put that there because, you know, it's safer.
Can't see us.
I know, I'm showing the ship. Can you see what I'm looking at, Jeff?
No, we can't see anything.
Yeah? Okay. All right, now this is the troop compartment number 1, which has 42 bunks. So you can see it's really crowded. They're 4 high.
Hey!
And it's so crowded in here. And you know, that's the way the troops were. We didn't give them much. We just gave them, they had their own blanket, and it's just a canvas bunk. So I'm going back up the ladder.
Jerry, can you hear us? No.
No.
This is back out onto the well deck. There's the flags. Now on the bow of the LCI is this ladder, and that's the gun deck for number 1 20mm cannon. It's right up there. And then see, we have a plastic owl because these crows take shells. And,
You're not getting through.
oh, I'm not?
There was a little bit of information.
Okay. Maybe it's because I need to be near the Wi-Fi. How about now?
We can see you okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
you're okay now.
So we didn't catch any of the outside stuff. We didn't catch much of any of that. We saw the
Oh.
bunks. Really quick. Yeah,
You saw the bunks? Okay.
we did
Okay.
see the bunks for a moment. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
I-
not your fault.
Can you see me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go up the stairway and to the gun deck. This is where we have 2 20mm cannons so far. We need 5 of them. We have 2 of them, these gun mounts. This one is actually mounted. And I'm walking over here to the bridge. Hey, Jeff, every now and then, say something to make sure I still have
You're
a
good,
connection
sir.
with you.
Yep.
Like
You're
we still
a
see
little
it.
choppy. You're a little choppy. See, he's not.
Can
gonna
you hear me?
Okay, you're back.
Okay. Yeah, I guess our Wi-Fi signal doesn't go through the steel ship very good.
You,
Can you
you'd
hear
think
me
they
now?
would have built it for that. Yeah, we can hear you. It's
Okay. Yeah, so this is on the bridge. Just shows you what it was like to sit here. This is the steering wheel for the bridge. You sit here on a stool and you can turn the rudder. And then there's a compass and a gyro and all the portholes so you can look out, see where you're going. And right here also on the bridge is a chart board and the communication center for the ship, where you have all the voice tubes and the emergency alarm. See if you can hear that. So that's our emergency fire alarm if we need it.
we got that one.
I'm going to look out the back end of the ship so you can see the flag on the stern. You still hear me, Jeff?
Yep, you're good so far.
Okay. See, there's a winch back here
And there he goes. All right.
that we would use to reel in an anchor. I'm sorry. They let an anchor and they reel it in with that stern winch to you know, come back in out from the beach because they're going backwards. Up there's the conning tower.
Barry,
with
we've
all the
lost your
flags.
video.
And that's where the conning officer would sit. And right up there is a crow's nest where the signalman would sit. Yeah.
Okay, you're back.
Okay, did I keep losing you? I guess. Yep. I'm going down the ladder from the bridge down to where Dave is. So this is the messing and clipping room where you reload 20mm ammunition magazines. And there's one of our 20mm cannons that we have set up. This is the officer's wardroom. There's that picture with all the people. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a lot of city fathers of Millbury in this picture. Dominic Tutura, William Roberts, Napoleon Crepeau, James Manning. Then there's also Harold S. Bowker, the president for the Millbury Savings Bank, and also the police chief, Fred Volter. And I guess he's still around. His son is a Millbury cop, I think, and Albert Britton, who was the editor of the newspaper. So anyway, that's them right here. And here's Dave and Mark. Say hi, Mark.
Hi. Welcome aboard.
This is the officer's head. And it's got a sit down and a shower, freshwater shower. And this shows some officers eating at the wardroom. This is the passageway between the galley and the engine room. The galley has this serving line, so you fold up that table right here. And no one is allowed in the galley except for the cook and the guy helping him. So they have this Dutch door so you can get your stuff. And here's our diesel powered stove. And we just got this donated maybe a year ago from a tugboat up in Wisconsin. So here we are inside the galley. And we have the ship's coffee pot, which is really important. Now we have this set up where we have the real authentic galley, which is all here. But then at the back on the aft end of the galley is a door to a walk-in refrigerator. And we just use that as a actual modern day galley. So we cook meals on the LCI for volunteers every Saturday. So that's where we keep it hidden away. And going back here is the door to the engine room. And down there, you can see the switchboard and one of our modern day welder, which is a generator. And then this is aft cruise head. They have the old timey washing machine with a ringer on it. And the, you know, they would have to be in port to have enough water. And deep sink. And you can see there wasn't much privacy on Navy ships. So these are the cruise toilets. And they also have a shower right in there, and salt water shower. So that's down into troop number 4. And this is a doorway that goes out onto the stern. And you can see the flag on the stern. Plus we have a brand new refurbished potato locker, which is you would keep spuds inside here and onions. Anyway, so I think that's about it. Dave, can you still hear me? Everything
Yep,
good?
you're good. You're good.
Okay. Yeah. And so I already showed you I think I showed you the most of it. If I go down below, I'll lose your signal. So with that, I'll pass you back to Dave so he can do questions.
Great.
Okay, Dave.
Okay. There I am.
So am I coming through the PA, guys, in here? Am I coming through now? All right. All right, how about now? Good. All right, so does anybody have any questions? What I'll do is I'll just repeat them over to him so he can hear you guys. But does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask?
Okay. Yeah.
Always got any questions at this point? That's great.
It's a very, very great, good thing for us today. We really appreciated it. So,
You know, oh, there is a question.
Okay, so in port, did they stay on the ship or did they bivouac inland?
so when they were on port, when they were in port, did they stay on the ship or did they live inland when they were deployed onto the ship?
Well, I'm pretty sure they stayed, you know, on the ship. So if you were in, you know, if you were in New Guinea, you're on the ship. Now, maybe if they were on leave or something like that and go into London, if they were in Normandy, obviously they may have stayed in a barracks, but pretty much you're on the ship. This is your home.
Okay, great. Do you have any last thoughts or last things you'd like to share?
I'm sorry?
Any
Do you
questions?
have any last thoughts or anything else you'd like to share? Because there are no other questions here, so.
Oh, sure. I mean, if there is another topic you want to talk about, I mean, this was just kind of like a, you know, you're trying to get as much information to make it interesting, but if there's a particular topic, like I say, you want to talk about Normandy or you want to talk about something in the Pacific, you know, just let us know. I'm more than happy to set something up. And thank you, because this is my first opportunity on dealing with Zoom. So this has always been a learning curve. Facebook. And so this is something that I can use here, and I wish to do it again. So we're available anytime. And again, we're on Facebook, we're on the website. You can dial us up if you want and see what we're doing.
Awesome, thanks. I've been going back and forth with Dave for a couple months now to kind of get this together. They've been great to work with on this, so I want to thank them again for volunteering to do this. The Historical Society is making donations to the museum as part of a thank you for doing this program with us. We are also taking donations today, which we will forward over to the museum, so please be generous to them if you can. We want to thank again the VFW for hosting us today. We have a check for the VFW as a thank you as well. I don't know where
the VFW rep is at the moment, walked away. So that's that. Again, just for the LCI's purposes, they're on Facebook, the Amphibious Forces Museum, Military Museum, amphibious-forces.org. Millbury Historical Society, millburyhistory.org. Follow us on Facebook, lots of cool stuff there. This video will be available online eventually. And I think we have a drawing. We have some nice little infantry landing craft models to give away. So I don't know who has the tickets. That was not me. Here's our little boat.
That's cool.
Great. Yeah. There's another question. Okay.
Is there turnout and interest going to see this boat?
How much interest do you guys get in terms of visitors to the boat?
Well, it's getting, well, COVID got involved. I mean, we usually have somebody here every Saturday that'll come on board. So maybe, you know, because we're behind locked gates, and people have to access to the shipyard, it's not something that people just walk in off the street. You have to call us and let us know ahead of time. So, you know, we have 3 or 4 people on an average 365 days.
Yeah. Okay, great. So the quartermaster for the VFW is here. He's waving on the side, so we will present him with this check. Thank you again. And let's do some ticket pulling. Would you like to pull the first ticket? Last 3 numbers.
979.
979. And Kevin Chrysopoulos gets the model. Yeah. We'll do one of each. So he won first, so which one would you like?
This is a smaller model and this is a large model.
And let's pull one more for the smaller. And while those are getting pulled, feel free to take a look at our things over here after the program.
980.
980.
980, oh, for God's sake.
Oh, yeah. 980. This is a smaller scale model of the LCI.
All right, so help yourself out to some refreshments. Check out some of the models there. Thank you very much again for coming, and you know, have a great day. Thank you again, LCI folks.
Were you recording that or was he?
No, he was.
Okay.
I wasn't.
You muted me.
Oh,
I recorded it, so I'll have the recording and I'll make sure that it gets over to you guys.
Oh, nice. Thanks.
okay.